Thank you so much to Steve Williams. He has my last name. I don't know if he thinks he has mine, but I have his. Anyway, it's a very popular name. As you know, there are a lot of people in the world who have the name Williams. I want to thank you, sir, for that wonderful presentation. All of you have said many of the things that I thought I was going to say today, because I've been riding around with Mr. Williams, and he knows everything. Okay, shall I say that or not? He's going to say that. So I had a hard time thinking about what I would talk about today. He has given me so much to chew on, as it were. And I'm so glad to see all of you here today, because as I woke up this morning, I thought, oh, they're going to probably cancel it, like all the other churches and others are around here in Washington, D.C. We don't get a lot of snow over on the southwest side of D.C. It might be snowing up northwest, but not southwest where I live, on the waterfront. But today, and these last few days, we've gotten that snow in southwest. It's all over D.C., and they don't know how to handle it because it's all still all over the place, and people are digging out of the snow still. Well, I want to come to sort of a modern day. Mr. Williams knows everything about 100 years or so. How old are you, Steve? Well, he knows about stuff that he wasn't even born, and things that many of us who think we know a lot about Black history and what's going on in the world. He knows more. Okay, so this morning I've had all of these lectures from him, and I thought about Jesus. You can't talk about all that. I know that after it's over, he's going to say, well, actually, here is what happened. So I'm going to just ignore him right now and let him make his notes on what he wants to correct about what I say today. But I want to talk just a little bit about looking back at the freedom in America, when there was a time when we thought that we would always have freedom, right? Now, some of us are feeling today like our freedom is being infringed upon. And it doesn't matter what color you are, what your religion is, or what have you. If you want to be honest with yourself, you know things ain't right now. And that we have a lot of work to do. And we can't sit around and allow other people to do everything. That's a famous thing. Well, I'm not going to get involved in that. I'll let them handle that. No. This is about all of our freedom that we're talking about today. And we need to be concerned about it and figure out how we're going to get back to that. There was a time when we used to start feeling sorry for people around the world, remember? Because they didn't have the freedom we had here in America. And of course, now we're looked upon as, what's wrong with them? What happened to them? And many people are suffering for simply doing the right thing in our country. We need to recognize them. They need to be lifted up. The meanness of spirit that we see sometimes, we can't afford to bow down and to be like that ourselves if we want to save our freedoms here in America. So let's look back. We must reflect on when America was looked on as the leadership in the world. Remember those times? It hasn't been that long ago. But we no longer hold that title anymore. If we want to bring it back, who's responsible for doing it? We are. That's right. Everybody is responsible for doing that. We actually felt sorry for people. We don't feel that there are people who are feeling sorry for us because they know how good America has been. And they want us to go back to it. They're feeling fearful to have American involvement in some of the things that are going on now. And that's not a good feeling if you are an American, is it? So we want to be supportive of bringing back our freedom. We never thought that the day would come when we would, face and actually see a diminishing of the rights that some people work so hard for. In my case, many of my ancestors died to have this freedom. And we just knew one of these days we were going to have it and never thought beyond that some of those rights would be taken, not just away from us, but from people of all kinds and from every place. And so it's our responsibility to do a better job, because somehow we slipped down on the job and things began to happen that had never happened here before. A meanness of spirit came about, and we're still dealing with that. But we must be that example to show that we care not only about ourselves and our families, but about our neighbors and our friends. And that's the way we're going to get our freedom back. Well, let us look and recognize unequal freedom and the work in progress, because we have always in America been a work in progress, but we were moving towards something good. The things that are happening today, we never envisioned that they would happen. And as a black person, we know that we were never truly free. We understood that. But that didn't give us the right to be mean or not to work toward a betterment of the country in which we live. We had hope, and at no time did we think about going back to where we were, to causing people problems that they never had to deal with before. We had hope then. Remember when we used to always hope, no matter what was going on, we believed it. We went to church. We socialized. We gave each other food. If the neighbor had a cup of sugar, we gave the neighbor the cup of sugar. Remember, people are sometimes now afraid to speak up. They're afraid of their own neighbors because we don't know each other anymore when we see some of the things that some of them are doing. Black women are reported to be the most educated, most highly educated people in this country. But what happened to us recently? Hundreds of thousands of black women have been laid off from those jobs where we were doing so much to try to improve our country. And now our families are suffering because we have no job. We have nothing to go on other than the need to work, to change things, to make it better from wherever we are. We may not have as much as we used to have, but it's still our responsibility to be there to improve our country. Black families began losing advancements. They couldn't see that now. Many of them can't send their children to school. Many young people I talk with will say, well, I guess I'm just going to have to go in the military, because that's the only thing they can think of, that they can go to college that way, because their parents can't afford to send them now in many ways. And so we all have to step up and make a difference in this world. Things changed in our cost of living. And of course, there are people who differ with that, but those are people generally who have so much that they probably have as much money as God has almost, but they don't help each other. They don't share it. But no matter how little we have, we must share with our neighbors. We must help them with our children who want to go to school. I have two, a nephew and a niece who just joined the Navy. They don't know what else they can do right now. So they're joining the military. And many of the people who were in the military fought for the freedoms that we're losing today. Do you see how many military people stand up and talk about what's going on, and yet they get punished for it? Look at General Kelly. Look at so many people out there. They fought for the rights that this country has, but we're losing them. And don't be naive. Don't think that they are never going to affect you or impact you, because if we continue to allow them to slide down, they too will have problems. We must encourage people to do their best. Now, I'm not sure who really understands what's going on. I'm sure I see some heads shaking that you understand that. But I know that there are people who didn't forget what our ancestors, and when I talk about, now I'm talking about my black ancestors, because I have white folks in my family too, everybody. All y'all probably got some black folks in your family too. You know, you may not have wanted people to know that, but it's true. So we are all mixed up all over this country. But one of the things is, my ancestors never forgot what they went through to help to gain the freedoms that they have today. And of course, there was Ida B. Wells. You probably learned about Ida B. Wells in school. We don't teach Black history anymore because we can't, right? We're forbidden to do that. But Frederick Douglass didn't forget about what he went through and what people went through when he was here. Fannie Lou Hamer, I don't know how many of you know that name. She was down in Mississippi, an uneducated woman, but she knew that she wanted her people to be free. She was beaten, she was misused, abused, but she still did it anyway. And that's the way we have to be today. Dr. Martin Luther King died out there working for freedom, not just for black people and yellow people and brown people, but for all people. And yet, there's some people who want to take Martin Luther King's birthday and make it their birthday or their holiday, a presidential holiday. This is how ridiculous things have become. We want to take away from somebody in order for us to get to be what we want to be. We want to take away the name of John Kennedy just because we want that to be ours. We want to take away somebody on Mount Rushmore because we want to be on Mount Rushmore. But what have we done in order to deserve that? Then there was Malcolm X who died. Many people hated him, but he loved people. He worked so hard, and again, he died trying to help us in this country to be on the right track. Medgar Evers, down in Mississippi, just trying to give people the right to vote. But we're losing that. There are people who want to take away our right to vote. They're down in Georgia right now, looking through, trying to find something wrong with the voting records there. Some of us are going to lose our right to vote because they'll find something wrong with what we've done. There was Charles Sumner, a white man, who, he was absolutely for our equality. And we can never leave him out of our history. We know what he did, and we need to be able to study these things. Abraham Lincoln strongly supported, as you heard here, the amendment to bring about freedom for all of us. Not just white people, but black people and yellow people and red people and everybody in this country. He wanted to work for that and did. And so we thank God for all of them. And we must never forget that there were people all the time who wanted freedom. We must recognize them. We must learn our history. And we must learn not to hate just because somebody told us that somebody didn't do something they shouldn't have done. Now, as we observe National Freedom Day today, let's take a step back. When brave souls stood up and they risked their lives to improve this country, to work for our rights to be free. And we know that one of these days again, we have to have faith that we shall be free. Right now, a lot of people are not feeling very free in this country. But the importance of staying awake and vigilant is early today. And that goes for our young people, for our middle-aged people, for our elderly people, because this is impacting all of us. And maybe it hasn't touched you, but I know as a writer and a person who does radio and makes appearances, I've got my little words to warn me about some of the things I do and say, but you can't allow that to stop you. Everybody just about has had difficulties working for freedom of this country, not just for our people, but for all people. And so there's a real importance in our being vigilant. Some people start out and what do? They get scared or they give up along the way. And they don't get anything done. They just sit around and worry about what's going to happen. I don't have time for worrying about what's going to happen because I see what is happening and know that I have a responsibility, not just a person who is a peace ambassador, but just as a person, a child of God. I am given a responsibility to help to change things and get them back the way that they once were in some times because things were difficult. One time I would say go all the way back and do those things, but we're at least on our way to everybody having the right to vote. We didn't have anybody breaking down our doors because of what we said, like we had with Don Lemon and Ms. Ford this past week. We're losing our right to have free speech in this country when we see that. And so we have a responsibility to speak up and to say something. ICE is everywhere. They're all over our country. And these are the same people who committed crimes a few years back on January 6th, and yet they're out there now beating up people, killing people, as a matter of fact. Minnesota, we must get up and we must pray for them every day. They don't deserve what's going on. All of my life, I know Minnesota has been one of the best states in this country. I remember Hubert Humphrey. I'm old enough to have remembered Hubert Humphrey. What a great person he was. And now his state is under attack every day. At least 2 people have been killed. And why? One was killed being a nurse trying to help somebody. And then the other one was trying to just move out of the way as she had been instructed to do. And yet today their families are suffering because we are permitting ICE to be all over our country. Now in Washington, D.C., we've had the National Guard. But don't confuse the National Guard with ICE. That's two different kinds of people. National Guard young men and women are generally our neighbors, they are our friends' children. They come in not the way that ICE has come into Minnesota and to other places around the country, Chicago and what have you. But the National Guard are young men and women who themselves have lived in our communities and do live in our communities. Many of them are in the National Guard because they want to get an education. So let's be nice to them. I know in D.C. we have some on every corner, all around my house. But I look at them as protection from groups like ICE and others. They are young people who want to save communities. That's their work. When there's a hurricane, when there's a flood, whatever, they're out there helping people. So have respect for the National Guard. These are people who should be under the control of your governor. Now, we know that others who tried to take over even the National Guard, but they can't change the personalities of these young people. They know what their job is, and that is to protect and to serve. We must learn from our history and learn from our leaders what they have done and what they do. We are blessed that one day God woke some of us up, many of us through the years, and let us know that we had a responsibility to help our communities to do the right thing. And we need more of these people of all races to be out there doing that now, because all races, all nationalities are being impacted in a negative way today by some of the things that are going on. And of course, there was a man by the name of Robert Sterling Pritchard. He was one who woke up one day and he decided that he wanted to do something about Black history. And of course, today we're having Black history taken away from our schools, from our museums, etc. But does that mean that we have to stop teaching? We can teach it in church, we can teach it after church, we can teach it wherever. Black people have played an important role in this country. We still do, and against the greatest of odds. So let us learn to work together. This Mr. Sterling, or Dr. Sterling, brought us from, a little of a no record of Black history, and I think he taught most of it to Mr. Williams here, because he knows all about everything, no matter how many years ago it was. And I've only known him, as he said, just a little time, but he has corrected me on, to his way of thinking about everything, and I appreciate him. He's my brother. And of course, anybody who would get up from Los Angeles and fly all night to be here with you, he cares about you too. He wanted to make sure that this program went on. And we Black people are not the only ones concerned today about freedom and about making this country better, the status of our freedom. Everybody has to wake up and take part and do what we can to bring the freedoms we knew back and improve on those freedoms even. We find ourselves in a bad place right now as we acknowledge National Freedom Day. There's something wrong with that we're acknowledging National Freedom Day, and yet we're worried about diminishing of our freedoms. So we have a job to do. We find ourselves in a really bad place right now. Every day we wake up, sometimes I don't even turn the television off because I got to see what happened last night. I got to know when I wake up. When somebody calls me and says, "Did you see? Do you know what they said, what they did?" I want to know, because I want to know what I can do to make a difference that day, what I can change, help to change things. So we must rediscover the meaning of National Freedom Day. It has meaning. You heard about it in the speakers, the person introducing me, others, the young man who spoke this morning, talking about National Freedom Day. We got to make that mean something. I mean, it's okay to have a celebration, but we got to know why we're celebrating, and we got to know what we've got to do. And as we reflect on our freedoms, we're not inclined to say that we're celebrating National Freedom Day. Rather, we're trying to figure out what happened to that freedom that we had, and what it is, not what somebody else can do, but what we can do to make that difference. And we once, pitted those who didn't have the privilege of freedom in their countries or in their areas. But today, things have changed. They're pitying us because they know what we have and have the ability to do that we're not doing. And I want you to be lost, because we've lost a lot. And it's hurtful, it's tiring to think about. We worked on that. We worked for voting rights in this country. We worked for all of the rights in our Bill of Rights, for speech, for all of those things, of the press. And yet we see them violated every day by people who are supposed to know better. But they're people in power who can do this, and they're doing these mean things just because they can do them, and because we allow them to do it, because we all don't stand up at the time that we should. Now, it's now necessary for us to look back and examine where we have failed. Well, not just blame them for everything they did, but blame ourselves for our not protecting those freedoms that we had for everybody. And there's just so much. It's necessary for us to do a lot of things. We have to, first of all, value the freedom that we once had, recognize that we have it, and not see people who just walk around complaining about everything and doing nothing about anything. All of us need to find something we can do. And perhaps we never considered what more could be done that we could cherish and we could protect. And we know that one of the people, as I said, who did that, absolutely was for freedom of everybody, and that was Charles Sumner. If you don't know Charles Sumner, read about him and see the things that he did. Abraham Lincoln strongly didn't always get credit for what he did. There were some people that, well, he didn't really do anything to protect our freedom. No, he did everything that he could. As a matter of fact, he finally signed the bill, everything. He didn't have to, but he did. He wanted things better for all of us in this country, and he did that. And you know what? Just a short time, a few years later, what happened to him? He was killed. So you see, we never know when things like that are going to happen to us. So we need to do all the good that we can do while we're here. We often forget the struggles and the sacrifices our ancestors endured to bring us to this National Freedom Day. How many of you knew about National Freedom Day before Mr. Williams came and told you about it? Yeah, well, he's a great teacher, and everywhere he goes, whatever he's doing, he's going to teach about it. And so many of us have come to believe that he knows all these things. Sometimes we argue with him, but we believe that he knows. His heart is good, it's in the right place. He wants us to know from whence we have come, and he wants us to know the correct story. Now, people like Ida B. Wells and Frederick Douglass, Fannie Lou Hamer that I mentioned before, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Sojourner Truth, that I had the privilege of helping to put in the United States Capitol. And as old as this country is, she was the first black woman ever in the United States Capitol with a memorial. That should not happen, but it has happened. And once we put Sojourner Truth there, we got Rosa Parks there. Rosa Parks, a beautiful woman. There's an effort now to take away her photograph from places that she is, her memorial where she is. You wouldn't call her radical, I mean, she was just a woman who was concerned about everybody, wanted to sit down on the bus because her feet were tired, and she was tired of being told she had to go and stand in the back of the bus. So we don't have to do that anymore, but we can give credit to Rosa Parks for doing that. Was that a radical act? Well, maybe in that day it was, but it isn't now. That doesn't seem so radical to you that somebody wants to be able to sit in a seat where they are, where no one is sitting, and then being told that you have to get up and let somebody else sit there, and you have to go and stand. That's the kind of world we have come from that. We thought we were away from that. We thought we had the freedom now to sit wherever we wanted, on a train, on a bus, an airplane, whatever. But in those days we didn't. But you know what? We're going back to stuff like that now. There are people who expect us to yield to them. Now, these actions remind us of the importance of vigilance and of gratitude. When we get a right to do something, we've got to work to hold on to it. And sometimes it takes a nudge from a little higher than where all of us are. So that means we have to pray a lot. I know that if you're here today, you probably are a member of a church, you probably pray a lot, and don't undervalue the need to do that. I've always had an opportunity to work with people of the United Methodist faith, even though I'm not a member of that church, but they've always been faithful and helpful people to others around them. I've always loved them. I ran for office. I had the nerve to run for office in Louisiana, and most of you of a certain age will know what Louisiana politics are like, right? Well, I had the nerve, but the people who came to my rescue most were United Methodists, and I thank you. I thank you, Pastor. It was a pleasure being here, meeting you, and seeing you. So throughout our history, many of us have experienced an awakeness, and I believe everybody here is awake. I do a radio program in honor of and remembrance of the one and only Dick Gregory. I don't know how many of you know him, but he was a comedian, but he was more than that. He was my best friend. I was the last person in the room with him when he passed away, and the last words I heard him say were, "Wake up and stay woke. That's the name of my program. You see, sometimes we have those moments where we wake up, but we forget. And look what's happening when we forgot about protecting our freedom. So we must get back to it. And I hope you'll have a chance to read wonderful things about Dick Gregory. He was more than a comedian. He said so many things to me, taught me so many things. And I will never forget him, and I hope that you will remember him. And most of all, I have a book about him called Wake Up and Stay Woke. So one of these days, who knows, you might even get a chance to read it. But I want to go back to Robert Sterling Pritchard. He was among those who was awake. He knew the truth. He shared the truth. He somehow taught Mr. Williams here the truth, and he's now teaching it to people all over this country. Our history does not end with just saying there is a day that we have done everything that we can do. No, we never have done all that we can do. God allows us and helps us to do the things that we want to do and that we need to do. Now is the time for all of us to shine. So let us honor what all of our forefathers and mothers of all races, creeds, and colors did to be helpful, and let us be willing to pick up where they left off. Some of them have gone on now, but don't forget the things that they did. And they were operating under much worse circumstances. They had fewer things. They had little to go on. Many of them had little education, but they still did what they had to do to bring some happiness, some good times, some good things to people. Now, circumstances brought on by the nation's executive branch of government leaves the choice to us to either forgive, to forget, and to be so involved in what we're doing for our country to make it better that we don't think about that every day. We get up, we see what's going on, but we don't have to deal in it all day, every day. Abraham Lincoln didn't just wake up one day and say, I think I'll do something to help black people out, you know. No, he really believed in what he was doing. And it's unfair that many people think that he did not. But since I've met Mr. Williams, I have learned that he actually wanted to do what he did. And it was good for us that he did. So for whatever reason, Abraham Lincoln was not required to sign the amendment. We know that he wanted to do it. And so we have to give him credit for getting us that far. And it just, you know, what is the 13th Amendment? You know, many of them say, oh, I don't know what the 13th Amendment is. And we don't read it and just kind of, you know, take it in and figure out what it means in those days that it came about. That was an important amendment. It's still one today, but though we have not settled everything that the 13th Amendment tried to do, but we know that it did some great things for us as black people in particular, and when it did good for us, it did good for everybody. And I hope that all of you will recognize that it wasn't just for us that the 13th Amendment was passed, but for the good of our nation. And for those who love our nation, we know that we have to celebrate days like National Freedom Day. It is what helps to make our country great. So years later, like Dr. King and Medgar Evers and Malcolm and Viola Davis, a white woman, you know, they lost their lives fighting for freedom for us. They didn't have to do it, but they were moved to do it. And they had the need to do something for everybody. It wasn't just about freedom for black people, no, because some people of other nationalities, other races, wanted to be better people, just didn't know how, or maybe didn't have the opportunity, were afraid, or whatever the reason was. But as we have come along, more and more people have begun to stand up for our brown brothers and sisters. They're having such a hard time right now. I hope that we remember them and the good that many have done in our country, and don't believe all the things that we hear about what they do. So when the National Freedom Day occurred, I'm sure Mr. Williams was probably on his way here. You know, he hadn't gotten to this earth at that point, but he learned everything there was to learn. And please listen to him when he talks with you. He may get a little rough with you sometimes, but he's telling you the truth. He's telling you things that you need to know. So this is the 50th year where we celebrate Black History Month. And we hope that you celebrate it. We hope that you have gone to the African American Museum. You learned some things there. And you know what? Right now, we're being told we have to take anything that's negative out, like slavery and what have you. But it doesn't matter. If that goes, we can teach people what they need to know about those times and convince them that they need to do better. So our call to action today is, as I wrap up, just all of us are called to reconstruct our freedom. And that applies to all of us, as I said, to guard them and to pray for them, to pray for better days ahead. We don't have to be in church to pray. We can pray anywhere we are and still have things happening. God hears our prayers when they are sincere. We can pray any time of day. I have one of my pastors in my church prays like 3 hours at night, and I said, well, I would have gone to sleep before those 3 hours are up, but I'm practicing now to get to 1 hour of prayer before I go to sleep. But at least we pray every day for the good things. So I want to thank our brother Steve Williams and those of you who work with him and help us to prepare now for Juneteenth, because that's another special day. Those of you who are from down south know how much we used to celebrate Juneteenth, right? Well, we're going to do it again because now it's an official day. All of you have permission to do it now, and probably it's a holiday now, right? Well, it's a holiday now, so even white people can be on leave that day. So we hope you enjoy this next Juneteenth, because Mr. Williams is going to keep it on your mind and on your calendar, and wherever you are, whether you're church or whatever, you can celebrate it. So I want to thank you, and may God ever bless you and all of the people in our nation, no matter what creed, color they are. There is a new and greater job to be done to bring back the freedoms and the goodwill that we once had in this country. It's our responsibility to build on it. So when there is a job out there to be done, instead of backing away and saying, I'm afraid, or that's too hard, I want you to raise your hand and say, here I am. Send me, Lord. Send me. I'll go. Thank you. God bless you. Amen. Amen.